In 1996, Boeing bought McDonnell Douglas for $14 billion, not to build better planes, not to expand their factories, to eliminate their last American rival, $14 billion to buy a monopoly. That one transaction is the key to understanding why, right now, if you step onto a commercial flight anywhere on Earth, there is a 99% chance it was built by just two companies. Let me explain. December 1996, Boeing announces it will swallow McDonnell Douglas in a $14 billion stock swap, the largest merger the aerospace world has ever seen. This isn't a partnership, it's an erasure. Boeing's board, led by Phil Condit, knows exactly what it is buying. The last American firm with the muscle to build jets for the world's airlines. McDonnell Douglas, battered by lost defense contracts and a shrinking commercial order book, has no way out. The deal structure is blunt. One Boeing share for every 1.73 McDonnell Douglas shares. 2/3 of the new board will be Boeing loyalists. Overnight, the U.S. commercial aircraft market collapses from two real players to one. The Federal Trade Commission barely blinks. Airline executives asked by regulators admit they have already stopped considering Douglas jets. The message is clear. From now on, there will be Boeing or nothing. Nearly every commercial jetliner in the sky today wears one of two names, Boeing or Airbus. Together, they control about 90% of all large passenger aircraft in active service, roughly 14,000 jets each. This is not a matter of consumer choice or brand loyalty. It is the result of a market so concentrated that, for most airlines, there is no real alternative. In the wide-body segment, the massive twin-aisle planes that cross oceans, Boeing holds a slight edge, supplying about 60% of the world's fleet, while Airbus delivers the other 40%. The numbers are staggering. Out of more than 28,000 commercial jets flying, only a sliver, less than 10%, comes from any other manufacturer. Regional jet makers and upstarts nibble at the margins, but the core of global air travel flows through these two giants. Airbus, once the underdog, now stands as Boeing's only peer, locked in a rivalry that leaves everyone else on the outside looking in. Launching a new commercial jet is not just a technical challenge, it is a financial cliff. The price of entry starts at $15 to $20 billion just to get a clean sheet design off the drawing board and into the air. That's before a single aircraft is delivered, before any revenue arrives. The timeline is brutal. 7 to 10 years of relentless spending with no guarantee of success. For every Boeing 787 or Airbus A350, the break-even point hovers at 2,000 units sold. It is a mountain few will ever climb. Pour in $20 billion, wait a decade, and hope the market hasn't moved on. Most companies would run out of money or nerve long before the first plane flies. Even with billions in hand, a challenger slams into the industrial wall. The global supply chain for commercial jets is locked tight by Boeing and Airbus. Around 150 Tier 1 suppliers, names like Rolls-Royce, GE, Honeywell, and Collins, control the flow of engines, avionics, and flight systems. 4 engine families power nearly every jet: GE9X, Rolls-Royce Trent, Pratt & Whitney PW1000G, and CFM LEAP. These suppliers allocate almost all of their capacity to the duopoly. Duplicating this network would cost $3 to $4 billion before a single part is delivered. Geography adds another layer. Critical factories are clustered around established hubs, reinforcing the fortress. For any new player, the message is blunt. Without access to this web, you are not building a jet. Even if a challenger survives the cost and supply chain gauntlet, one last barrier stands in the way: certification. The Federal Aviation Administration and the European Union Aviation Safety Agency hold the keys to the commercial skies. Securing a type certificate is an 84-month ordeal involving 7 years of design scrutiny, systems testing, and regulatory red tape. Every system, every bolt, every software line must pass through a maze of compliance checks. Miss a requirement, and the clock resets. Even established players set aside 12 to 15% of their program budget just for regulatory contingencies. For a newcomer, each supplemental type certificate can mean months of additional delays. The fortress is complete. Without regulator approval, no airplane leaves the ground. China's state-backed COMAC spent 15 years and nearly $20 billion to bring the C919 to life. On paper, it looks like a breakthrough, with over 1,000 orders, a modern design, and the full weight of the world's fastest-growing aviation market behind it. But scratch the surface, and the fortress walls appear. Nearly 70% of the C919's key systems, including engines, avionics, and flight controls, come from the same Western suppliers that power Boeing and Airbus. Almost all orders come from Chinese state carriers. And without FAA or EASA certification, the C919 is locked out of global routes and financing. Even with massive state muscle, COMAC can't break through the barriers that keep the skies closed to outsiders. Lockheed once gambled everything on the L-1011 TriStar, a marvel of engineering that bled cash. A $1 billion cost overrun and the collapse of its engine supplier forced Lockheed out of commercial jets by 1981. Across the Atlantic, Fokker's push to scale up ended in bankruptcy in 1996, sunk by weak sales and a failed government rescue. These were not isolated missteps. They were casualties of a system that punishes any stumble. Meanwhile, Europe's governments took a different path. In 1970, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom joined forces to create Airbus, pouring public money into a single champion. The first A300 rolled out with guaranteed state orders and research grants. On both sides of the Atlantic, government backing, not just engineering talent, decided who survived. Each exit and each subsidy tightened the fortress, clearing the field for only 2 names. Airlines operate inside the fortress, but hold no keys. Every major carrier relies on a constant flow of jets from Boeing or Airbus, yet both manufacturers are swamped, with over 8,000 aircraft backlogged and delivery dates stretching into the 2030s. Expansion means waiting years. Switching suppliers is not just expensive, it is punishing. Moving from Boeing to Airbus or vice versa requires retraining every pilot, mechanic, and crew member, running up bills in the billions. For a large airline, pilot conversion alone can cost $2 billion, with maintenance, spare parts, and ground equipment adding at least another $1 billion. No board approves that unless absolutely necessary. When disaster strikes, the paradox sharpens. The 737 MAX grounding pulled hundreds of jets from schedules overnight. Airlines had no backup plan. Airbus was already booked out for years. Leasing old jets or shuffling routes became the only options. The fallout was lost revenue, frustrated passengers, and billions of dollars in compensation. Airlines grumble about the duopoly, but the fortress leaves them hostages to a system that promises stability but delivers fragility in crisis. Global connectivity depends on just 2 supply chains, and when one stumbles, the shock ripples through the entire network. 2 giants rule the skies, not by building the best planes, but by building walls no rival can breach. The fortress stands. Air travel's future is locked behind its gates.